Hi everybody, my name is Matthew. I am the assistant manager at the Hamilton South Caddo branch of Shreve Memorial Library, and today I am going to be showing you an easy method of making soap. So the method we're using today is called melt and pour, and that's because it's as easy as that. You essentially melt a soap base, you add your ingredients, you pour it into a mold, let it set up, and you have your soap. So to get started, I'm going to go over all the items that you'll need to make this soap. First up is you'll need a soap base, a melt and pour soap base. So this one you can buy at any kind of craft store, or you can buy it on Amazon. This one happens to be shea butter scented, so it's nice for your skin. The next thing you'll need is a knife to cut the soap base into small cubes so they melt better. Then you'll need a microwave safe bowl. This is what you'll use to put your soap in to melt it. You'll need a measuring spoon. You'll need utensils to stir with. You'll need, so if you want to add different colors to your soap, you can get colorants that are specifically made for soap, so that's safe to use on your body. And then to give your soap a scent, you can use different oils. Today we are using peppermint, but we also have lavender. And then you could also add things like flowers. So here I have some lavender petals that I could add to the soap if I wanted. And lastly, we have a fun assortment of molds here that we actually pour the soap into to let them cure. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step is to cut your soap into small cubes. So I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap my soap. And the fun thing about this is you don't have to really worry about making a mess, because if you get the soap on anything, it's soap. So all you have to do is get a wet wash rag or a wet cloth and it'll come right off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take, this particular soap base came in 2 chunks. Each chunk is 1 pound. So I'm gonna take 1 pound of the soap base and I'm gonna start cutting it up into cubes. And for this, the smaller the better, because the smaller it is, the less time it takes to melt. So as I cut these up, I'm going to put them in the microwave safe container. Just get these cut up into little cubes. Okay, so now that I have the soap cut up into cubes and placed in the microwave safe bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in the microwave. And so what you want to do is you want to microwave this in increments of 15 seconds. So basically what you'll do is you'll microwave it for 15 seconds, take it out, stir it, put it back in, and repeat that process until it's a good liquid consistency. And the reason you want to do it in short increments like that is because you don't want your soap to burn, because if you over microwave it, it will start to break down, it will burn, and it'll stink, and you don't want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the microwave and I'll be right back. Okay, so our soap base is good and melted. It's a nice liquid consistency. So we wanna kind of work fast because it will start to set up as soon as we take it out of the microwave. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to add our scent. So this is peppermint oil. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons for this 1 pound of soap base. And the amount of oil you put in your soap depends on how strong you want it to smell. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons. There's 1. And there's 2. All right. So I'm gonna give that a good stir. And it's already starting to thicken up slightly, but not too much. It's still hot and it's still liquid enough for me to work with. So I'm just going to give that a good stir. All right, next I'm going to add some color. So since this is peppermint, I figured I would give it a good green color. So I'm gonna add the green colorant, and again, the amount you put is all up to you. It just depends on how dark green or how vibrant you want the color. So I'm gonna do a few drops at a time and then stir until I get the color that I want. All right, that looks like a good mint color to me. So I'm gonna put my lids back on my bottles here. And lastly, just for fun, I'm gonna add lavender petals to our soap. So it'll be kind of like a lavender mint soap. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour some of the lavender into the soap. Now the thing is the lavender petals are gonna float to the top. So keep that in mind if you're adding anything to your soap base. If it's solid, if it's dense, it'll sink to the bottom. If it's not dense, it'll float to the top. So when you put it in your mold, in this case, our lavender is gonna float to the top. So when we take this out of the mold, you're gonna flip it upside down. So our lavender is gonna be at the bottom. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding on what to add to your soap base. All right, so this is good and stirred. So now I've got my assortment of molds here, and all I'm gonna do is pour some into each mold. Be careful, it's hot. So the molds I'm using here, they're silicone molds, and they're made for crafting specifically because they can, you can make things like soap and resin and things like that, and they come out of, whatever you're making comes out of the mold really easily. Just gonna finish. All right. And I have a little bit left over, but that's okay. If I have any other kind of molds, I can add it to that. So, essentially that's all. The last step is simply letting your soap cool. And actually, it will start cooling down immediately, but you want it to sit at least 24 hours to be fully hardened. So I'll give you a quick close-up and just see what the molds look like real quick. So this is what our molds look like after we have put all of our materials in them. Okay, so like I said, the last step of this process is letting your molds harden. So they'll start hardening immediately, but you want to give them several hours to get good and hardened up before you try to remove them from the molds. But after 24 hours, they're definitely finished. And just to kind of show you an example, I made this one earlier. Hopefully you can see it there. It's just, it is lavender scented, lavender colored, and it's got lavender petals in it. And it smells really good when I wash my hands, and it makes my hands feel nice and moisturized because it's the shea butter soap base that I used. So it's just a fun little project. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great one.